This is the human model where we want to look at the different blood vessels you have to know. We're starting out the heart, where you're familiar already with the ascending aorta, entering to the aortic arch. From the aortic arch we have the brachiocephalic trunk, leaving on the right side of the first branch, and that branches further into the right common carotid artery and into the right subclavian artery. Going further on the next exit from the aortic arch is the left common carotid artery and the left subclavian artery. So there's no brachiocephalic trunk, and if I show you, putting this over here, you can see that we have two arteries leading from the aortic arch on the left and only one on the right, which is called the brachiocephalic trunk. Now, following the blood flow, we go into the descending aorta within the thoracic aorta further down, coming into across the diaphragm through the hiatus, and then we enter into the abdominal aorta with the celiac trunk as the first exit point. One of these branches will reach over to the splenic artery towards the spleen. One of these branches will enter as the common hepatic artery into the liver, which would be lying here, and then the third exit of the celiac trunk is the gastric artery, which enters the stomach, which lies above or below the diaphragm, above the pancreas. Then when we go further down, the next thing we see is the superior mesenteric artery, and a pair of branching off the aorta is the renal artery, left renal artery going to the left kidney, and the right renal artery going to the right kidney. Going further inferior in the model, we're finding the right and the left gonadal artery. And below this, we find the exit of the inferior mesenteric artery. The superior mesenteric artery and the inferior mesenteric artery are supplying the digestive system with blood. Going further down, we see that the aorta splits into the left common iliac artery and the right common iliac artery, which then themselves splits again into the internal iliac artery on both sides, right and left, and into the left external iliac artery, or the right external iliac artery, and then continues on the outside of the abdominal cavity into the femoral artery. And that's all we can follow for the blood flow in regard to the arterial system. What we also can see here now coming into the venous system is the great saphenous vein and the femoral vein combine, that they go into the abdominal cavity as the external iliac vein, which combines just before with the internal iliac vein, which drains the pelvic area, into the common iliac vein. This is the left common iliac vein, and here a little bit on the side you can see the right common iliac vein fusing into the inferior vena cava. The inferior vena cava receives blood from the right gonadal vein and the right renal vein, draining the kidney. Now on the left side it's a little bit different. The left gonadal vein actually enters into the left renal vein, and this blood combines and drains towards the inferior vena cava. The inferior vena cava moves on, and it moves more or less straight through the liver, so it's going up here, but it receives also blood from the hepatic veins draining the liver. We can also see within the liver here the picture of the common hepatic artery, where it splits into the different hepatic lobes, and in purple here slightly we can also see the hepatic portal vein bringing blood towards the liver, who would sit like this in the overall model. And just another picture of the hepatic portal vein. You can see, if I add the pancreas part to this, and you can see here we have the hepatic portal vein, which combines from our digestive system, bringing blood towards the liver. Parallel, you can see the superior mesenteric artery supplying the digestive system. But let's move up higher towards, with the inferior vena cava going into the heart, as we know, and let's look at the upper torso area for blood returning to the heart. We have the right internal jugular and the right subclavian vein, and both of these veins return into the brachiocephalic, the right brachiocephalic vein. On the other side, we have the left brachiocephalic vein, who receives blood from the left internal jugular vein and the left subclavian vein, combining to the left brachiocephalic vein. These two brachiocephalic veins drain into the superior vena cava, to the superior vena cava. What you can also see is the azygous vein here towards the back is bringing blood also into the superior vena cava. The azygous vein drains the blood from the posterior portion of the thorax. Now looking at another dark blue, but this time artery. We are familiar with the pulmonary artery, which splits into the pulmonary artery. So the pulmonary trunk splits in the pulmonary artery, even though blue because low oxygen, and then gets returned to the heart via these red pulmonary veins, two on each side. So this summarizes the blood vessels you have to know within the human model.